Okay, Tafresh Tzadik. Kairas ala Megillah ben Oimed ben Yoshev, aval lo yikra b'tzibur Yoshev lechatchila mipnei kavod hatzibur. A person, it can be Yotze Mikra Megillah. It doesn't need to be done standing. It can be done sitting. However, somebody who's doing it for the tzibur, he's doing it out loud for everybody else. Kavod hatzibur demands that he stand. Okay, I'm going to just share with you a fascinating story. You know, sometimes rabbis have questions that they wish they didn't have. And then after, when they're finished with it, they're happy that they had the question because it's something nice to say over. The halacha is that a person who's a shliach tzibur is supposed to stand. I had a situation here that somebody had a family member that came from Chutz La'aretz that had yahrzeit. And he wanted to daven for the Amid. Said, absolutely no problem. Then I was told that the fellow is wheelchair bound. After I said that he can daven for the Amid, I was told that he's wheelchair bound. That means he can't stand. Right? And the Shliach Tzibur is supposed to stand. But I already said the guy could daven. Right? So now what do you do? Okay? Now, I don't know what I would have said if I would have known before I said yes, that he's wheelchair bound, how I would have dealt with the issue. But now I was in a stickier situation and I was unsure what to do, and I said I'll let it slide until we get closer to the date. He came for Yontif, and it was, around Yontif time, the yahrzeit. And something happened that he was forced to fly back to Chutz La'aretz before the date came. Okay, after this happened, I asked my father, what should I have done? This is like,
After
he flew back, after the whole story happened, I asked my father, what should I have done? So he said to me something which is very pashut and important, but sometimes when it's said exactly at the right spot, it has a totally different understanding to it. He said the first halacha of a shliach tzibur is that he has to be merutza l'kol. It has to be that the people are satisfied. They want him. They feel this is our man in Washington. We have a guy that's representing us properly. A person who cannot stand is lacking in being a merutza l'kol. The tzibur, it can happen that you had a chazan who was a regular guy and then he became an invalid and you still want him to daven because he's your chazan. But if you're having a guy who's just a drop-in fellow, this is called a major chesaron, and you would have to tell the person that he can't do it because of the fact that the halacha demands that the guy stand, and he can't stand, and that's how you would have to figure out some way to get that message across. I'm just saying over the story because we're about to learn a Mishnah Berurah which has to do with this kind of an idea. All right, so when the person is lighting the Megillah, if he's lighting for the tzibur, he has to lay it standing. If he's laying the Megillah at home, he could lay it sitting down. Now, says the Mishnah Berurah, this is a fascinating Mishnah Berurah. You could say it ben Oimed ben Yoshev, says the Mishnah Berurah, Mio ha-bracha yivarech ba'amida. The bracha he has to make ba'amida. The question is why?
When you say at home, does that mean without a minion at home? Or?
I'm talking about at home without a minion as of right now, okay? If you have a minion, so then it's the same thing as in shul. Okay? So why does the bracha need an amida? Why does the bracha need to be done ba'amida? Okay? No. The answer is because the bracha is done like the mitzvah is done. There's a rule in brachas. Now, okay, and this is okay. Now, and here he says this is also discussed, okay, but the Mishnah Berurah says, and even those that are being yotze the Megillah, that they are sitting down, they have to stand also for the bracha. Now it happens to be the Pri Megadim in Hilchos Pesach, he disagrees with this, and he says that the bracha can be said sitting down, even though the mitzvah is done standing. And this is a very big machlekes on this subject. Why am I pointing this out? Because there is a one time in year where this Mishnah Berurah, which we do like this Mishnah Berurah in this shul, is very noticeable. On Tisha B'Av, right? On Tisha B'Av, we make a bracha on the Megillah, we make the bracha standing, and then we sit down. And that's because of the opinions that the bracha on the Megillas should be said standing. Okay?
But why is it should be said standing? I'm going back to his question. Yeah.
So there's a whole discussion about that. It's learned out of some kind of a drush, if I remember correctly. That's the, okay?
Actually, had the opposite. That Balkover wanted to stand for Eicha during Corona. So
okay. 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 Now the Mishnah Berurah says that the subject of smicha, over here there's more of a reason that one could be mekel, and that's because for certain things we say smicha is like standing. Okay. A person, the Ramah says, a person should not go up to read the Megillah without being asked to go up. And the reason why is to be mitzi the tzibor is a kavod, and you shouldn't take kavod for yourself. If somebody asks you to do it, there's halachas how to do it. You're supposed to say no the first 2 times, and the 3rd time you can do it. But a person should not do it without trying to shy away from it, unless this is his job. Right, so that's okay. Okay, if he was mamula kach, then he doesn't have to wait, and he can do it. Okay, next halacha. Afilo shnayim, afilo asarim yachol lekroisa biyachad, v'yotzim heim v'ashoymim mehem. You can have two people reading the Megillah, and everybody's yotza. Now, this is a very important halacha. I happen to have been involved in this halacha this morning in a totally different area. You don't say that. Why? The kriya zu chaviva biyoser mipnei hanes. Since it's chaviva biyoser, yoev daita lishmoya heitev. He will pay good attention. I don't know how you translate it. Yeah, but I'm just trying to figure out how to translate the words. Okay. Upashet margish vaso that mebabel if you feel that you can. Okay. Now, I'm just going to share with you where I was involved in this subject today. From the places where the subject of trei koile loy mishtoi is discussed, it's discussed in a chavrus of mine is in the middle of writing a Dvar Torah about people singing at their Shabbos table together with their wives and children. And the question is, this is a question in the Sridei Eish. One of the Sridei Eish has a very famous tshuva where he was mater for boys and girls that were in groups to sing together, and part of his heter was based on the fact of trei koilis lo mishtoi. Now, the subject of trei koilis lo mishtoi, even according to the Sridei Eish, was talking about that there were boys and girls singing together. He wasn't talking about if you just had a women's choir listening to 2 women. This is clear if you look at the tshuva. And the question was, if one would apply that concept, he's not the first one. The Chassan Sofer already discussed this issue of trei koilis by Zmiris. It's already a well-discussed issue. When does it apply? Now, if you have something, and this is according to a different issue in the trei koilis issue, when you say trei koilis lo mishtoi, when I have 2 people saying something, what does it mean trei koilis lo mishtoi? I can't hear consecutively both of them at the same time. It doesn't mean that you can't hear pieces of this one and pieces of that one, right? It means that you can't have a continuum of listening to two people speaking at the same time. So if kol v'isha erva is a problem, how does trei kol liloi mishtoi alleviate the problem? Because מה? זה לא מה שאמרתי. אז אמרתי מקודם, איך זה עובד, שאני לא יכול לשמוע כל מה שכל אדם אומר משתי אנשים מדברים, שזה מתבלבל, אבל אני כן שומע חלק מכל אחד.
In the Chayvut, people are singing their dafkas together. You can hear the words very clearly. You can have a whole choir singing, you hear the words.
Okay, I'm not right now going to get involved in this subject, but I'm just saying that this subject happened to be, this morning I was involved in it, in this totally different area. But here, it seems that you're going to hear, and who are you hearing it from? You hear, when I hear the Megillah from two people, how many people did I hear from that I'm being yaitza? How many yishkoyachs do I have to give? Let's speak, practical. What's it going to cost?
You should give shkoyach to everybody because everyone tried their hardest.
Okay, that's even if you weren't being yaitza, right? But how many people do you have to give a yishkoyach to?
You're probably going to follow the train of one voice. That's what I imagine. That's what we're saying.
Right, that will be the pashtus, right? And the second voice doesn't hurt you. Okay? It could very well be that if you say Chekos, when you say Chekos V'shtoi, but it's Chavivole, you could actually hear both, and then you'd have to.
Perfectly in sync.
That's not true. They have a riot from Mishnah Berurah and Hilchos Purim that that's not true. Why do you think that that's true?
You're going to hear the Megillah from two separate people that are holding in two separate spots. That I would assume that even if it's Chavivale.
Yeah, you might hear the mafreya, you might hear words out of order.
Yeah, I don't know.
No. Each one will hear it in order.
Didn't we say that last week about 10 people saying it all together?
No, then we said that's called tefillah b'tzibur. That's called Eidir b'tzibur. We didn't discuss you being yaitze. It's a different nakuda. Mm-hmm. Now, I'll just tell you, a lot of times, I'll give you an example. If you have, let's say people are singing together, and you have one guy who's like teaching everybody, and everybody else is following him. You can hear both at the same time. Yeah, I'm saying that's an example. If they're in two totally different places, you're not going to be able to.
Here, you're really trying to follow the word. You have each word. You're trying to follow each word. So it will be very hard for me to understand that if he's holding my Hebrew Machashurish and he's holding on.
I'll just tell you why I think that you're wrong. Yeah. Can I talk and listen at the same time?
Your wife probably doesn't think so.
But she believes that she can, right? Okay. Okay. Now, can I talk and listen at the same time?
I would. My
not
initial
well.
reaction was to say no.
Okay.
I would say not well.
Okay. I'll just quote to you a halacha, and this is a fascinating halacha. The halacha is in Hilchos Netilas Yadayim that you cannot make it al Netilas Yadayim while the person is being moitzi you with lechem mishnah. And
You do that, you're too late already. No?
Why are you too late?
You think they're doing a motzi and you're doing it till Yadayim?
Okay, and this is a whole discussion about how that works or it doesn't work. And there it seems that there's no problem of doing two things at one time. Okay, that's where that sugya I think is found. Okay.
Happens. Let's say you're slow on Shmona Esrei and you're finishing it, and they finish it, and just the guy gets done, and the chazan gets done of a bracha just when you finish. Can you say amen to this bracha?
100%.
Even though you were talking while he was doing the bracha.
Yeah, and even if you weren't davening.
No, if you weren't davening, you weren't talking.
Yeah, okay. I've heard that there have been people who have talked and they answer amen. But there's no problem. There's no problem in doing that. You can say amen to bracha as long as you know that it was just finished now, even if you didn't hear the bracha. That's al Sandra Shabbat Tzayim. right? There's no.
But you won't be able to then that bracha, right?
Zoom.
That's a question that goes to this subject, that Mishnah Berurah, if you can be Yetza two things at one time. Okay? Okay. Next halacha. Tzach lekroisa kula mitech haksav. You have to be reading it inside. V'mkara al peh lo yotza. V'tzach shetei ksuva kula lefanav lechatchila. It all has to be written there. Al b'diavad im hishvat ha-sefer be'emtza tevois, if it's missing some words, afilu ad chatzia v'kara al peh yotza. Lechatchila, you're supposed to have the whole Megillah, but b'diavad, if you're missing even big chunks, you could still be Yaitza, as long as you have the important pieces. Aval im hishmet chilasa oisaifa, afilu miuta, if you're missing the beginning or the end, even a small amount, lo yatza. V'afilu b'emtziasa davka shelo hishmet inyan shalem. Aval b'yaysa mechatzia, if you're missing more than half of the Megillah, afilu haim ksuvas ala shem metushtash, they're, metushtash, they're blurry, yeah, okay. Ein vein rishumam nikar, then it's puzzle. Okay, this is a fascinating halacha, and the reason for this halacha is because the Megillah is like a letter. And in letters, not always is everything grammatically correct, everything there. As long as you get the general idea, it's good enough. So too this is true. Now I'd like to share with you a fascinating machlokes haposkim, which is very negea halacha l'maisa. In this shul, I would say that somewheres around a third of the time we learn the haftarah from a cloth. Is that about right? A third of the time? Okay, we have the two major ones. So we're probably about a third of the time at least that we learn from a cloth. Yeah, that's for sure. Always true. And the question is, in many shuls, they get from a gemacha, they get from some old shul, a old navi. What do you say? Okay, and the question is, many times, those Nevi'im leave much to be desired. And the question is, do you accomplish anything by learning from them, or are you doing yourself a disservice from learning from them? Because it's puzzle. You'd be better off maybe to do it from a chumash. Maybe you're better off to do it from a Megillah daf tarta. Okay? This is a very important question, and this is very negeya. I'll just tell you, I heard once, many years ago, probably about 10 or 15 years ago, a recording from a shir from Rabbi Reisman. And in that shir from Rabbi Reisman, he said that they asked Rav Moshe Feinstein this question. And Rav Moshe Feinstein said, it's kosher, because the Navi doesn't have to be more kosher than a Megillah. And as long as Rav is there, then it's kosher.
And Navi has the same Hashem.
What is one of the
important difference?
No. The question is the Sefer Sholem? That's the question.
Megillah is an Igeris, and the Navi is one of the books of Nach.
And what is Esther?
It is one of the books. First of all, they didn't want to.
I mean, that's irrelevant, totally irrelevant. Okay. Listen, you can go to Har Menuchas and you can find it out. I'm not going to. I'm telling you what he said, and I can even understand it. Reb Chaim Greineman, he was of the opinion that it has a halacha like a Sefer Torah, and anything that would passel Sefer Torah would passel a Navi. And this is a very, when I say a very important machlokes halacha l'maisa, and this is something that people are not aware of. Now, since I shared this piece of information with you, I'll share with you another psak of Rav Moshe that has to do with the Megillah that is not well known. The reason I know this is I had an uncle who lived in Bnei Brak, whose name was Reb Chaim Freiman. He was the paisik in the Beis Medrash in Ponevezh for about 50 years. And he had a chavrusa whose name was Zucker. This fellow, Zucker, was a world-famous fellow, a genius with a photographic memory. Now, they used to learn just to have an idea what kind of brains we're talking about, they used to learn with the new editions of the Rishonim, and Baal Peh, they would say, what's the difference between the old version? This is what they did for to keep themselves extra occupied during Seder. Okay? And he said that he asked Rav Moshe Feinstein the following question. Now, I possess a Megillah that has this problem. Sometimes you have an old Megillah that the sirtut on the Megillah faded. So it was written with sirtut, but it's not there anymore. And the question is such a Megillah kosher or not? So Rabbi Akiva Eiger discusses this question, and he doesn't have a clear answer. And Rav Moshe Feinstein told Zucker that it's kosher. And this is, there are many people that are saimich on this. To be mekel, even though a sefer without sirtut, it's quite hard to understand why it should be kosher exactly. But Rav Moshe Feinstein said it's kosher, so that's good enough for me. Okay? I just said it, I would say that you could rely on that. Okay. Misha Tafis V'yad Megillah she'enu kshera, lo yikra im hashliach tzibur, ela shomea b'shoisik. This is a very important halacha.
Just that Chazan can read if it's not kosher. Why can't the person listening read it not kosher?
Because you can read the whole thing.
The Chazan himself is not going to be reading the whole thing.
Chas v'sholom.
He said it could be missing words and stuff. You can still read it.
Your Yotze b'di'eved, as long as you read the majority of it from the script.
So if the person also is reading the majority of it.
What is the case? You're not looking inside. If you'd be looking inside, you would realize that the question, Misha Teifes Biyada Megillah Eino Kshera, Lo Yikre Mashri, Ele Shomea B'Shaisek. Why? Because we're afraid that you're going to be missing out on something that you have to fill in, and you're not going to be able to fill it in.
Well, not because you're not going to be reading it from the...
Well, when you have to fill it in, you're not going to be reading it from the Ksav, which is another important issue which has to be discussed, doing Ksas with Kriya and Ksas with Shomea Ka'oina. If you could do that, maybe we'll discuss the Har Tzvi about that in a minute. Okay? V'chein lo yisayeh shum adam al peh l'chazan. The chazan doesn't need any help. Okay? We don't need those. There's certain places where people always think, like on Rosh Hashanah, in the parts, Simcha le'artzecha v'sasem li'recha. People are obvious to think that the chazan doesn't know it, and there are certain places where people, and in Kriya Satira, there's certain, like in the Kriya for Pesach, there's all kinds of places where everybody believes that they were born to be the chazan. Okay? So here it says clearly, all you guys should go back to your cave. Lo yisei shum adam al peh l'chazan. Why? Because we want the people to be yotza from the chazan who's learning from a kosher Megillah. V'lachein, and this is very important, oisan ha-psukim shekorin hakal, those psukim that the tzibur says before the chazan says them, tzor ha-chazan lachzor l'kroisa mitoich Megillah kshera. He has to read them over from a Megillah kshera so that the other people can be yotza with that which he says. Okay? Why shaben yitin hashmei libo lezeh koire v'lo l'shlech tzibur u'lefi tam zeh im koire rak adam echad, then you could do it. Avol yesh machmirim v'chein lo yisayeh gam ke mitam hanal v'ayim bel yirab d'betzara b'zeh lahachmer afilu k'shakoire yotze yochid, he's just being moitze one person, d'shema yitin daita masha koire bal peh ba'atzmoi. Even though you want to be yotze with the shliach tzibur, I'll just give you an example where this happens. There are many people that are saimich on a heter of the Mishnah Berurah. When they do shnai mikveh targum, they say along with the balkaira.
We can answer that. I would appreciate it.
Okay, so you can do whatever you want. There's extra pages in the back of every Mishnah Berurah. You can write in whatever you want.
You can't hear the Balkari because everyone's sitting around the Balkari to hear the Balkari to follow along, and you hear everybody else.
Okay. I would just say.
A lot of balcovers, yeah. Trey Cole love stomach. Only by the Megillah it's kosher.
You need a louder balcony.
No, that could be.
Okay. Anyways, I'm just saying that this is that's where people do it, and people do it also by Megillah because everybody likes to read the Megillah. There's a Yisoid, I learned this Yisoid from the Rosh Yeshiva of Beis HaTalmud in Brooklyn. He said, why is it that the average person could tell you most of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur davening Baal Peh, and they don't know Tachnun or Sheni or Chamishi Baal Peh? Right, the second one. I said because something which a person doesn't want to do, he doesn't attach himself to it. Whereas the davening on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, everybody's all geared up, so that goes in, okay? And, okay, I'll just say that if Mr. Beer would be here, I wouldn't say this over, because Mr. Beer is for the people that really enjoys Tachnun. He says that if you, and he'll discuss it with you, if you look at those kapitlach that are said in the long Tachnun, it's really a very nice tefillah. Anybody who really has time to think about what they're saying, they would realize that this is not something to just mumble through. Okay. Kara seiru again, dahaina shapasuk ba v'shav acha chazer lamakom shapasuk. A person reads it in spurts. Afilu kedei shal kedei ligmar skula yatsa. Even if your pit stops were long enough to be going with the whole Megillah, as long as you didn't interrupt by doing something else, that would be kosher. V'afilu sach b'ntayim, even if you spoke. Mi'u gar b'mishe sach b'ntayim, anybody who spoke in the middle, we are annoyed at him. We don't allow that to happen. And this is a very important halacha. Now, I would just like to make a statement which I find amazing. If somebody were to ask me, how long does it take to learn the Megillah?
Anywhere from 20 minutes to over an hour.
20 minutes.
No one makes noise.
Yeah, 20 minutes. You can do it in 20 minutes.
What do you think the level answer?
Okay.
From the customer? Wow.
Yeah, and I've heard even Koheles in 20 minutes. Perfect, without any mistakes. That's, yeah. Okay. But that is not what I call Kedei Ligmor Skula. Because you have some super guy who he's able to do that. That doesn't make it, yeah. Okay.
On each person?
No, not in this halacha. Ubeshah machmas oynes lefi ma the kaimam simen samacheli in kriyashma the chayzer rosh who adin hacha the chayzer karem miu eno levorach orapam. Okay, vafilu sach retzanelam the lav davka b'shah b'shtika. We're not only if a person was shah b'shtika, alafilu pasku b'emtza megillah b'sicha v'shahu al yedei nami ein tzarich lachzor ela gaimer mimakom shepasak. You continue from where you left out. V'chol zeh k'shesach ha'kaireh aval ha'shomeh shesach v'lo shama al yedei zeh akriya afilu chiseh rak teva achas das kama poiskim d'lo yotza. Now I don't know why it's das kama poiskim. In my opinion, it should be everybody, right? Okay. Now, the chayin tzarich gadol liyos kol echad chumish ki ba'od shavakim ha'na'orim hamon ukayotzi yesh lishma kama teves mishliach tzibur. While everybody's banging hamon, the people who want to be paying attention can't because the kid next to them is making too much of noise. V'yotze ma shekayra alidei chumish v'apeh. If you did it, did it b'diavad, you did with the chumash, then you'll be yaitza those pieces.
So this instruction does include someone has to go to the bathroom or someone goes out to eat something.
Yeah, I just want to tell you something about going out to eat. I had a experience once that I was doing Purim 2 days. And I left Beit Shemesh, and I had a Suda in Beitar, and then I went to Yerushalayim, and I missed my minyan, so I went to Zichar Moshe to hear Mikra Megillah. Now, the Balkaira in Zichar Moshe happens to be someone that I know. And when it came to the first Haman, he pulled out a bottle of water from his pocket.
With water?
Water.
I wouldn't have counted on that.
Okay, I'm just telling you, and he took a long swig. And I gave him some kind of a dirty look, which he tried to ignore. But the second time when he did it, and I gave him a dirty look again, he said, it's only water, and this is the 6th time that I'm reading the Megillah. So, at some point, you get a little bit dry, and he said, therefore, I felt it's necessary to do it, and that's why I did it. Now, I met him a long time after that, and I had a discussion. What? Doesn't make a difference if you drank beforehand and you're in the middle. No, it would be kosher to do that.
Well, he's not drinking because he's thirsty. He's drinking because it's what it is.
Yeah, but it could be that he's thirsty. Okay. Well, that could be true if he wasn't benefiting from it at all. But even if he was, if he made a bracha beforehand, then it would take care of it. Now, there's a question whether somebody is allowed to do that or not. And the place where this is discussed is none other than the night of the Seder. Why? The question is one allowed to drink during Magid? Yeah. And Mishnah Berurah says that one shouldn't drink because you shouldn't be masik. And now, whether that's a Hilchos Brachos inyan or it has to do with the Seder issue, has to do with, you look at the Achronim, there are different opinions on that subject. But theoretically, it's permissible to be done. I will just say that I used to daven in a minyan, that there was somebody there that used to learn before davening, and he would prepare himself a cup of coffee, and sometimes he didn't finish it, and he would drink it during Psukei Zimra. I stopped davening in that minyan. That was too much for me, actually. No, I'm not right now discussing whether it was permissible for him or not permissible, but that's, in my opinion, that's improper conduct. Not that there's a what? No. But every day, okay, but this is a discussion, but not for this.
What? Rav met about Korah afterwards.
And he explained to me the whole story, why he's doing this. That's all, and that's okay. Okay. Akaras Megillah mafreya lo yatsa. Kara pasuk echad v'dilag hasheni. You skip the pasuk v'kara shlishi v'achar kach chazer v'kara hasheni. So you went forward and then backwards to fill in. Lo yatsa mipnei shekara lo mafreya pasuk echad. Because one pasuk was out of order. Elakei tzad yasa maschel pasuk sheni sheshachach v'kara ala seder. Because pasuk number 3 you weren't yaitza because it was done out of order. Okay? Okay, it doesn't make a difference if you finished the whole thing and you went back. All these situations, you're not yaitza. Hakares ha-megillah al peh lo yatsa yedei chayvasai. If you did it bal peh, you're not yaitza because it has to be done inside. Now, the next halacha is a very important halacha. Haloyet sheshamas ha-megillah aksua b'lashon hakodesh u'b'kisvei hakodesh afabi she'eino yodea mahim oimrim yatsa yedei chayvasai. There is absolutely no obligation. We discussed this last week. There's no obligation for a person to understand the Megillah if it's being read in Lashon HaKodesh. Okay, Shimon, you want to ask about this last week?
Yes.
Okay, so here you have it. If they would be doing it in English, and you were in England, then it would be okay. But if you're doing it in English in England and someone's there from Spain, they wouldn't be Yaitza. It's only if you do it in Lashon HaKodesh that you're Yaitza if you don't understand the language.
How are you if you don't understand it? If It's an Igeris. The whole point of Igeris is to understand.
That's true, but it's not. Nobody sent it to you in the mail, right? It's written like an Igeris, and therefore has certain halachas like an Igeris. But I think that anybody who's hearing the Megillah, they know basically the content. They just don't know what the words mean. Just like and what does mean? You don't know, right? We don't know what they mean, and that's fine. You're yaitza, even though we don't know what they mean, because.
It's next to impossible for a person that does not know the language to follow the Megillah, because they're not going to be able to know where they are, and just sit quietly while it's being recited for half an hour, however long it takes. I mean, and not thinking, not let your mind just. That's the task that most people in that situation, I don't think would take involved.
Okay, I don't know if I could argue with you, but I don't know if I agree with you. In other words, your point is a technical point on how you observe people. There are people that are good listeners. For instance, I have a son-in-law who doesn't understand a word of English, but he can read it. He knows the letters, and he knows how to pronounce them, but zero. Okay, so I have two people in my family. He's the one who can read, and he reads it fluently, has zero understanding, and someone else in my family can't read a word of it, but understand it perfectly. Right, that's what they do. Okay, now, it's what? I'm just saying there's such a thing. Now, if somebody, I've seen Birchas Hamazon done. Somebody doesn't understand Hebrew, listen to the whole Birchas Hamazon. That I've seen done. I don't know if I've ever seen the Megillah done, because you'd have to be observing somebody carefully for like at least 30 minutes.
Everyone understands someone.
Okay, but I do believe that it's possible. If a person be paying attention, all you have to do is hear the words. You don't have to understand what they're saying. And even people who have, a limited amount, many times they have some kind of idea what's going on. Because most people know the story. I don't think there's anybody who hears the Megillah that doesn't know the story. So you get snatches along the way. That wakes you up. Okay.
You also technically follow with your finger, even though you don't know.
That's if you can read.
No, but you could put a word, the word stops and starts.
I don't know. Why do you say that? If somebody was speaking Hungarian here, you'd be able to know when the words start and stop?
They take a breath.
They take a breath at the end of sentences, maybe.
Chinese certainly not.
And they don't always stop here between talking in between sentences.
Okay, well, all these things I say, they're wishful thinking, and I think that everybody over here is beyond this question.
Guy, maybe.
Okay, there's no
stopping like that.
Actually, those guys who do it in 20 minutes, they do stop. Yeah, no, they do stop. Those guys who can really lane like that quickly.
The mamish laning?
Yeah, and it's all. No, and they actually, you could do it properly. It's not. Yeah.
People do it. You can hear every word clearly.
Yeah. Okay. I would just say it's a certain space. In my opinion, it's a little bit of a shud. It's such a beautiful thing. A person should like to enjoy it a little bit more. Well, someone hears it like that, you're so busy listening, you don't have time to really think about. Right, soak it in. Okay. Okay, we did that already. You're not yaitza if you heard it. Ella hamakir oisay lashon bavad. Only if you understand that language. Aval hoisa ksuva b'ksav ivri v'kara aramis larami lo yatsa. Doesn't make a difference. You have to have it all in the same language. Shenim zeh kara al peh v'kivan shelo yatsa kara dechavasa lo yatsa shamei mimeno. Aval ein lochush be'ezak ksav ksuva. It doesn't make a difference if it, as long as the person understands what he's doing. Okay. Misha yodea laz v'yodea ashuris. If a person knows both languages, eno yotze belaz v'yesh amrim sheyotze. If a person can understand it in Lashon HaKodesh, in other words, if we were to lay in the Megillah in English over here, according to the first daya, we wouldn't be yotze, because all of us could understand it in Ashuris. Says the Ramah, "V'im kasur b'shtei lashonos misha mevin yotze." Okay, if it was written in two lashonos, then you would be yotze. Okay.
Written in English, it would have to be written on a cloth from Hebrew characters or
Yeah.
English letters.
You could do with English letters too. Okay, well, stop over here.